What's up YouTube, Del here from Zephyr, and today I'm going to do an additional video talking about the new tournament and policy updates. Now, I'm not jumping on the bandwagon, I'm not going to be doing repeats of everything else that everyone has said. I just kind of wanted to give you information in regards to what these changes mean. Now, I feel that a lot of videos out there right now are all doom and gloom. They're like, oh, it's the end of the game, I'm going to quit, or Konami's ruined the game, da 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 da. I don't think that these new rule changes are actually that bad. Now, I'm just going to go through bullet points for you all so you have an idea of the biggest time changes. Starting off with the first one, all big tournaments will always finish as a top 8. What that means is, even if you finish in 64th place, you will still get additional prizes. You just won't have to face first place in Swiss to work down from a 64, 32, 16, and so on. Now, I don't think that's actually that bad, because I think what happens here now is it actually rewards you for where you finish rightfully after Swiss. So when you finish in 9th place, yes, okay, it's a bit disappointing you're going to miss out on 8th, but you will get what you deserve for finishing 9th in Swiss. Whereas in the past, what would happen is you'd get to top 64, everyone in the top 64 would get the same lot of prizes. Then if you lost your top 64 match, nothing much more would change. So kind of what would happen is if you finished first in Swiss and you faced 15 rounds, 13 rounds, 12 rounds, you name it, 11 rounds, and you went undefeated or anything like that and then lost your top 64, you got the same amount as someone that had just scraped in at top 64. So I actually feel that it values the Swiss rounds a lot more. Leading on to that, another note is that as we will no longer be doing top 64, 32 and 16, you will get 2 more additional rounds of Swiss. So it means everyone is going to get, if you make day 2, an additional 2 rounds of Swiss. It also kind of evaluates or gives you more value in making day 2. Like, that is what you're trying to do. You're still going to want to grind the games out so that if you do go X2, you still sneak in at top 64 to get additional prizes rather than anything else. The biggest downside of this is it does take away those classic moments that we get where the player that finished in 64th works their way up and ends up in top 8, top 4, you name it, which is really, really cool to see. I don't think it's the end of the world that we've lost that, but it is a bit of a collateral kind of loss for what has happened in that tournament scheme. Moving on to the next one. Now, this is probably the most important one. Now, this is changes to end of match procedures, the times of rounds and everything else in between. So times of round have now gone up to 15 minutes a duel, which is absolutely fine, or 15 minutes a game to be precise. Then what is going to happen is there is no longer any end of time procedure. When the timer is called, you don't finish a phase, you don't do turn 0, 1, 2, 3, it ends then and there. Now, the biggest change on this one is a duelist to win a match must win 2 individual duels, whether that be 2-1 or 2-0. You have to have won both. If you haven't and the timer gets called during game 3, for example, no matter whose life points are higher or lower, it will end in a double loss. Now, this is something that I feel is being trialed out, but I think it needs to be perfected a little bit. Now, rather than going in detail and complaining about it or anything else like that, I'm actually going to provide a solution which I feel could work. And I kind of want it to work as a bit of a discussion topic. Rather than it's doom and gloom, let me know what you feel of the rules, I'm going to put forward a solution that I feel that maybe, if it gets picked up in the future, something like this is not actually that bad to be implemented. We just need to adapt it a little bit. So the current time rules work as such. Well, the old time rules work as thus. That when time was called, you would finish your current phase. Now, speaking from experience, this was never that good of a thing for the pure fact that when time was called, a player or an opponent would instantly go to a burn con. So something like Gaga Cowboy, Heavy Borger is a prime example right now of this format. Another side to that as well is that players would intentionally slow play to get to a period like this where they don't allow their opponent to have any response, get to a burn window, get the burn off, and that's it. Now, with this new system, the biggest issue, or one of the things that the community is talking about, is that the slow play would come into effect with the mentality of, if I can't win, I'm going to take you down with me so that we both get a double loss. Now, this actually isn't going to be a good strategy, because at the end of the day, a double loss is worse than a normal loss. You're better off taking that loss against your opponent than trying to drag you both down. So it really isn't going to give you as much benefit as some people might instantly think. That being said, what I do feel is kind of being hidden in the shadows or kind of being overlooked is the fact that sometimes there will be a long grind game one. Now, I've actually had a lot of really good duels lately, and even in the past, where duels sometimes have taken up to 40 minutes in game one because it has just been a lot of back and forth. It hasn't been stalling, it's just been that both players have felt that they've had a chance to actually win that duel, and it has swung back and forth in the favour of each individual duelist. So games like that do happen. Now, my kind of semi-issue with that is if game one did take 40 minutes and then you side for game two at 3 minutes, you've got 7 minutes left on the clock. So what you're trying to achieve here with 7 minutes left on the clock is that you then need to either, as the player that won duel number one, have to win duel number two very quickly. And if you're the opponent that lost duel number one, you have to win 2 duels in a 7-minute period. So it's not that that person that lost duel one is going to be slow playing, but it could be that they want to still try and win to get the points. So what that really doesn't give is it doesn't give any benefit whatsoever to the duelist that won game number one, and it doesn't give any benefit to duelist number two that lost to try and push forward, because the way that they see it is if there's like 3 minutes left on the clock, unless they're a really nice duelist, which I feel should be happening more times than not, you're probably going to go, right, I can't win this duel here, I'm going to have to concede, and my opponent will then get the win. So my solution to this would be, if you win 1 duel, you get 1 point. The benefit of winning 2 duels is you get a bonus 2 points. So not only would you get a point for a win, but then because you've won both, you get an additional point, which gives you your normal 3 points that you currently get. The flip side of that means that even though it ends in a double loss, if you are 1 duel apiece, both of you would still technically get 1 point. Now, I know that still acts on like the mathematical scale of a draw, but at no point would there really be any benefit for either duelist to try and drag it into that state. Now, what I mean by that is duelist number one, they win the first duel, they've got 1 point on the field or on the board. They're not going to go, well, that's enough for me. They're going to want to try and push to win to get those additional 2 points. On the other side of the coin, the opponent that lost duel number one isn't going to go, well, if I can't win, I'm going to drag you down with me. Their incentive is going to be, right, well, I can still get a point on the board. This might be a big point as it comes to the later stages of top 64 or anything else like that. So I'm going to try and win game two with all that I can. It then kind of goes to a point that if you can't win that duel, that's probably where you might want to concede and give it to your opponent, because you can't win that duel. It's an unwinnable state, and it's better off getting a loss than a double loss, as previously mentioned. So the benefit of something like that is, depending on how much time is left on the clock, both duelists will try and push for those additional 2 points, and you're both incentivizing those players to win a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! That is kind of what I feel has been lost, is overall, you're trying to say win a game, so best 2 out of 3, as fast as you possibly can or within the allotted time period, otherwise that's it, game over. Which I fully understand in the sense that sometimes the previous issue with the last time rules and the time rules before those was that we were going into like 1, 2, 3 hours, crazily, enough of overtime in duels, which was just absolutely ridiculous. Whereas even now with the previous time rules, we were still going into like an hour or so of overtime, which you're like, all right, well, I've already paid 50 minutes of duel and then, or like 45 minutes of a duel, and then I've got to wait another hour. So I fully understand where we're trying to condense that overlay in time, and giving it a hard stop is one way to do that. So that to me isn't that big of an issue. I get that. And I do feel that these kind of incentivize like dragging or slow playing or unsportsmanlike conduct a lot less, because unless you have that mentality of if I'm going to lose, you're going to lose too, which again puts you at a detriment, doesn't really help you. Most duelists, when they were trying to grind out for a draw, were grinding out for a draw to get something from it. Whereas now what I feel like is if you do a 50-minute duel and then it gets it and you both get a double loss, if you have won game number one, or even if you have an incredible grind game that does take 50 minutes, very rare that that's going to happen, and you've slogged it out and you've got that one win, you technically have nothing to show for it. You might as well have not kind of done, like spent that long doing that duel, which I feel is the shame side of it, or like the disappointing side of these rules, which I feel it's on the right tracks. It just needs to be refined a little bit, and maybe someone else in the comments will talk back about my opinions in regards to this pointing system. Like if you win duel number one, here's a point, and then your incentive to keep playing is to get the other 2 bonus points, and on the other side your incentive is to get 1 point, and then if you are able to grind into the next one, it basically means that you're no longer, there isn't a chance to walk away from a duel getting absolutely nothing if you've actually tried to play the game. Now, that's just my overall opinion on it, and I thought it would be a little bit different to provide a solution for where these rules could be upgraded in the future. I feel that this is definitely something that was rolled out at Worlds. It was something that was tested, and I think from commentary, from what I heard, there was only like 2 double losses given out, and that was 32 players, if I remember correctly off the top of my head. It might have been less, it might have been like 20, 28. But regardless, I thought the top 8 matches were really, really good. The fact that there's no time limits on the top 8 matches, I also really, really do like, because then it means that those that have worked their way to be trying to be crowned that champion are actually going to be dueling it all the way out. We're not going to see a burn in time. We're not going to be able to see like any questionable slow play movements, because there's just no incentive or benefit or anything like that to be doing that. And I feel that that's kind of what needs to be put into the remaining Swiss rounds, because that's kind of where it needs to be incentive to move. Now, naturally, as we saw at Worlds, higher level competitive players that know their decks and everything else in between will move at a relatively good pace. In summary, it's not all doom or gloom. Don't run away going and quitting the game. Actually try it and then see how it feels. I feel that this could actually be a very, very positive change. We've got YCS Lille, YCS Bologna, YCS Dortmund just here in the European circuits. So we're going to see how the new rules are going to affect that. There's even regionals coming this weekend which will be implementing these rules, so it'll be quite interesting to see what changes, what adapts it. And as a player base has always done with Yu-Gi-Oh, we will change, we will adapt, and I do feel that if it ever gets to a situation where rules need to be adapted or updated, that will happen. This has happened many a times before, when Link Summoning was introduced, when the original time rules were changed to what they were previously, and now again. It's not something new. It might be something new as a returning player, and it might be something new as a new player, but don't worry, it's not going to be changing the scope of everything. At the baseline, for the very individual basic duelist, you're going to get more rounds of Swiss to play Yu-Gi-Oh, and you're going to get more time to play Yu-Gi-Oh as well. I think it's actually going to increase the player skill level of each individual duelist, and I actually feel that it's going to increase competitiveness as well in a good way. Anyway, I thought I would bring a more positive look on these tournament updates, because I thought that a lot of them, especially the thumbnails, were doom and gloom, it's over. Honestly, it's not. Don't fall within that trap. Don't fall within the I need to follow the rest and say, these rules are terrible. Actually look at them in an objective manner, and I feel that they're still going to be exactly the same and maybe even better than they were before. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe and, of course, happy dueling.